everyone, welcome to InsightsByRish. In today's video, I am going to build an interactive dashboard for geospatial data, and you might see on your screen right now, this will be the final output of our code. So on the left hand side, we are also having the filters based upon which we can visualize different portions of our data. So this dashboard will be completely interactive, and we are going to build this using three prominent libraries. The first one being Plotly, with the help of which we will create this visualizations. Secondly, Streamlit, with the help of which we will be able to create this front end of dashboard. And the third one is ngrok, which will help us to create a secure tunnel from our Google Collaboratory to our local host. So we'll start with the installation of ngrok because it's the main part of the beginning of our code. So this is the ngrok page, and I will provide the link of the sign in page in my description box. Do check that. So once you sign it up for free, secondly, it will take you to the dashboard. So in this dashboard, you have to select your appropriate operating system. Mine is macOS, so I have done it for macOS. Depending upon your operating system, you will select that and the appropriate dashboard will appear. Once you do that, you can see here we are getting few commands for connecting to ngrok. You have to just paste these commands in your command prompt, or you can say in your terminal, and after doing that, the ngrok will be successfully installed to your system. Now once you do that, next you have to visit this your authorization token page. Here you will get your authorization token, with the help of which you will be able to create the secure tunnel. Right now this authorization token is hidden by me because it's a sensitive data, and I cannot show that authorization token to you because with the help of that authorization token, anyone can access anyone's ngrok account. So right now I have hidden that, but right now where you are seeing this yellow color text of $your_authorization token, there you will be able to see your authorization token. And even if you just click on this show authorization token option, your authorization token will be visible on screen. And with the help of that authorization token, we are going to create the secure tunnel. So once you are done with this ngrok and once you have generated your authorization token, so let's now go to the dataset part. So for dataset, I am going to use this particular dataset of world population, which consists of countries, the continents that they belong to, their corresponding capitals, and population for different years, then the area of the country, and also the growth rate. So in total, we are having 17 columns in this dataset. So I am going to make use of this dataset, and I will also provide the link of this dataset in the description box. Now going back to the Google Collaboratory part, here we are actually going to write the code. We are not going to write the code on our local system, but rather we are going to write it on Google Colab. So here I have already imported the CSV file. Now let's start building the dashboard. So beginning with, first you have to import two most prominent modules, and those are Streamlit and Python ngrok. So just say pip install Streamlit, and secondly just say pip install py, which stands for Python, and ngrok. Let's run that. So the installation has started and it will take some time. Now once you install these modules, secondly you have to put that authorization token here in Google Colab in order to create the secure tunnel. So let's just do that. Just clear this output first, and here I will say from Python ngrok import ngrok, and here you will just say exclamation mark, then ngrok, then you will just say authorization token here. So auth, just the short form for authorization, and token. Now here you have to specify your authorization token without any single quotes or double quotes. You have to just simply place your authorization token here. You have to copy it from there and you have to paste it here. So on this page, once you click on this show authorization token, you will get your authorization tokens. So you just have to copy your authorization token from here, and you have to come back to Google Collaboratory here, and you have to paste it without any single or double quotes, just simply the authorization token. Now once you do that, just run the cell. And you will get this line that authorization token saved to configuration file, which means you have successfully loaded or you have successfully connected your authorization token here to your Google Collaboratory. Now due to privacy issues, I'm not going to show you my complete authorization token, and that's why I have hidden it. Next, what you have to do, you just have to say here URL is equal to ngrok connect, and you are connecting it on 8501 port. So you have to specify that port number here. You have to just say 8501, and this will remain same for everyone. This port number is by default, and for every one of you, irrespective of your operating system, it will remain 8501. And then you will just say HTTP. Now once you specify your port number, here you will print the URL where you can access your dashboard. So here let me just say access your Geospatial dashboard at, and here I will say URL. Let's run that for now. So this is the URL, as you can see on your screen, of HTTP, the first one, not the second one, the first one, which ends with ngrok free app. On that URL you will be able to access your dashboard, and this URL will change for every run. That is, every time you start rerunning this particular session, the URL will change. This is because we are creating this all things in static domain, which is for free, and as it is for free, it will every time allocate it to different people out there. So only if you are getting the paid version, this URL will remain constant for you, but otherwise it will change for every session. Now this particular URL, which will help me to access my dashboard, will only be bounded to this particular session. Now right now, though we have this URL on our screen, still we cannot directly access it. First we have to write some code into that, and then we can access that page. So let me add more cells here, and let me scroll it up in order to hide my authorization token. So here let's start writing with the Streamlit code. So here I will just say writing Streamlit code. So very first thing that we are going to do here is we are going to set our page configuration. That is how our main page will look like when we access our dashboard. So let me just say here, the first thing is page configuration. Now, in order to write the code into your Streamlit file, and in order to put that logic into your Streamlit file, with the help of which it will also be displayed on the dashboard, you have to make use of this particular sentence in every cell, and that is two modulus signs, then write file, this particular keyword, and then you just have to say app.py. With the help of this, you will be able to access your data on the dashboard. So this is the first cell where we are writing the code, and hence we will just say write file app.py. Next, when we will be writing the code in different cells, there we just have to keep on appending the data to this particular main file. So here I will start writing the page configuration. The first thing I will do is import some necessary libraries. So we will require your pandas. Then we will require Streamlit, so import Streamlit as st. Then we will also require Plotly here. With the help of that, we are going to create the visualizations. So plotly.express as px. Then we will also require the go module from Plotly, as we are working with geospatial data. So import plotly.graphObjects as go. And then just I will import the warnings, because it also gives us a lot of unwanted warnings and I just want to ignore them. So filter warnings, ignore. So this is the first part where I'm importing all the necessary libraries, and in the same cell itself I will start writing the page configuration. So to reset the page configuration, you will make use of this Streamlit alias every time for any Streamlit methods, and that is st. St basically stands for Streamlit. It's an alias for that. So you will make use of set page configuration method. So set page config. This method will help you to set the page configuration. Now in this method, first you have to pass the page title. So let my page title be. Now this is not the title that you are going to display on your screen. So you may think that here this particular title that you are seeing on your screen is the page title. No, the page title basically means the main title that we see on the tab. So every time when you open a new tab, the name of application does get displayed on the tab along with its icon. So that is what we are giving it here right now. So let the page title be Geospatial dashboard, and we also have to give the page icon. Now to give an example of page icon to you, when you open Google Collaboratory, just check the name of that in your tab, and you can see before that Google Collab you have the icon of Google Collab. So that's the page icon which we are going to give to our particular tab in which we will be opening our dashboard. So to give the page icon, you have to put some emojis, and that emojis are accessible from the Streamlit. So these are the emoji shortcodes for Streamlit, and from here you can extract any emojis that you want. Now let's say for the geospatial dashboard, I want a globe, basically the meridian lines. So let me just search it here. So to find the desired emoji, you will just go on the Chrome settings and you will click on find. In that find, you will just enter the name of whatever you want. I will put it as globe. And as you can see, it has shown me the emoji name of globe with meridians, and this is what I wanted. So the basic syntax of the Streamlit emojis look like, you have to just put colons before and after the emoji name. So let me just copy it from here. And I will paste this here in the Google Collaborative file. So this is how the page icon will look like. And after doing that, I will just say here layout wide, which means all our data on the dashboard will be in the wide view. So this is how the page configuration will look like. Let's run that for now. And as you can see, it's saying that writing app.py, which means this all contents are now written in the app.py file, which is connected to our dashboard tunnel. Even here you can see on your left hand side, a new app.py file has been created. Now even after writing this code, you still cannot access the dashboard. So for that, you just have to say here to access it, Streamlit run app.py and a greater than sign, then backslash, and here you have to say content, that is the current working directory where we are working, that is content, and logs.txt. So all your logs, which basically means all your errors that you are facing on your dashboard, will get stored in this logs.txt file. And again you have to put this ampersand sign. And let's run this cell. Now after running this cell, let me just move this cell on top. Now you can access your dashboard. So to access it, you just have to click on this particular URL that you have achieved from ngrok. Just click on that URL and it will redirect you to that particular page. Now you will get this warning. You just have to ignore it and click on visit site. Now once you visit on that site, so right now you are seeing the error, which is plotly.express not found, because I have missed a p there. Just a minute. Let me add the p there. And let me run that again. Now you don't have to rerun the Streamlit run code. It's just for the first time. Now after running, again let me go back to this and refresh it. So after refreshing, we are not getting any error. So whatever error or whatever mistakes that you are making in this particular code file will not get displayed in this Google Colab, but rather it will get displayed here in your dashboard. Now right now it's blank because we haven't wrote any contents here. So now we have to write some. So after that we will load our data. So here I will just say df is equal to pd.readcsv. So here I will put the path of CSV file from here. Let me just copy the path and place it here. Now after writing this, just keep in mind that whatever we are writing in this particular cell should get appended to the main app.py file. And to do so, what we will say, here we will start with to module assigned, write file, same as the previous one, app.py. But before that app.py, we have to just add one hyphen and a, which stands for append. This will append the data from that particular cell to the original path of app.py. So let's run that for now. And let's come back to this dashboard and try to refresh it to find if we have any error or not. We haven't encountered any error, which means we are good to go. Now the next thing that we want to do here is we want to create the sidebars. So if you just see here, on your left hand side, you are seeing the title as Geospatial Dashboard along with the globe with meridian icon, and there you have two filters of select a continent and select a country, based upon which you can visualize your data. So this is the sidebar, and we have to create this sidebar now along with the title and the filters. So let's start doing that. So the second task that we are doing here is creating the sidebars. Now to write this sidebar, again we will just say here write file -a, which stands for append, and app.py, which means whatever is written in this particular cell will get appended to app.py file. Now Coming here, let me just zoom this page for you. Just a minute. Fine. Now here we will just say with st, which is an alias for Streamlit dot sidebar. This sidebar is an inbuilt module from the Streamlit, and here we have to give the title to our sidebar, st.title. So let the title be Geospatial dashboard. And as you know, before that Geospatial dashboard, I want to add this icon of globe with meridian. Hence I will go back to that emoji shortcodes, and from here I will copy this emoji name along with colons before and after that, and I will just paste it here. Fine. So this will be the title to our sidebar. I can even show how this looks like. Let me rerun from beginning. And going back to this, let me refresh this page. So as you can see, on your left hand side you are getting this title as Geospatial dashboard along with the globe with meridian emoji. Now here we have to add some filters in this sidebar. Now to add the filters, I will add the filters in this same cell itself. Now whatever we are writing should be in this width block, because this width block is specifically for this sidebar, and whatever the contents we are writing furthermore are the components of this sidebar. Hence whatever filters now we are writing should be in this width block. So the first filter that we will be creating is for the continent, that is based upon continent we can visualize our data. Just a minute. So first we'll create a continent list here. So continent list. In this continent list, we will extract all the unique continent names from our data frame. So we are creating this list, and in this I will say df, which is the data frame, and from this the continent. Now to check the column names, let me go back to the Kaggle, and here let me maximize this view. So as you can see, the continents are present in this particular continent column. So this is the column name that we are going to put it here. And after putting that, here I will say unique, because I don't want the repetitive continent names, they should be unique. Now once you create this continent list, which consists of all the unique continent names, second you have to say here select continent, and here again we will make use of st, which is an alias for Streamlit, and then we will make use of multi-select method from Streamlit. Now once you do that, here you have to just put a placeholder, and that is select a continent, and here you have to pass this continent list. Fine. So this is the code for Streamlit, which is st.multiselect. Multiselect is an inbuilt module from Streamlit which will help us to create a filter. And once you do that, now you also have to write the logic. That is, if you're not selecting any filter, that is if you're not selecting any particular continent from that filter, then you have to display all the data as it is. But if you're selecting any particular continent from that filter, maybe one or even more than one, then you have to display the data only for that particular selected continents. So to write the logic for this filter, here I will say if select continent, that is if you are selecting any continent from that filter, then you will create a new data frame with the same name, and then here you will say df continent dot is in select continent. That is, if you are selecting any particular filter from that select continent or any from that drop down box, then this new data frame will consist of information only for that particular continent. And secondly, if I am not selecting any particular continent from that filter, then this will create the original data frame as it is. Fine. So this was the logic for continent. That is, if you are selecting any continent, the data will only get displayed for that particular continent, and if I am not selecting any, then the data will get displayed for all the available continents. So this was the first filter for continent. Let me just show you how it looks like. So we again have to rerun from the beginning. And let me go back to this dashboard and refresh this page. So as you can see, you are getting this filter here on your left hand side of select a continent, and once you click on this arrow, a drop down box appears from which you can select your desired continent. So let me just select Asia here, and this is just a single filter. If you want to select more than one continent, you can even do that. let me select one more continent here, which is North America. So you can select as many continents as you want, and if you don't want any, you can just remove them by clicking on cross. Fine. So this was the first filter. We have to create one more similar filter for our country, that is visualizing the data just for a specific country. The second filter that we are doing here is for country. Again, we are doing that filter inside the with block. Here we have to create a country list. So country list, and this will hold all the unique country titles, or we can say unique country names. So list, then df, and let's see what the column name for our country is in the data frame. So going back to this Kaggle, if you just see here, the column in which we have all the country names is country/territory. So we have to copy this column name and I will place it here. Now after placing that, I will just say unique again because I just want the unique country names here. Now after you create this list, secondly, you have to again repeat the steps that you performed for the continent. So here I will again say select country is equal to st.multiselect. This will help you to create that drop down box, and here you will say the placeholder as select country, and then you will pass this country list there. Now once you do that, again you have to write the logic for that filter, that is if you are selecting any particular country from that filter, that is if select country, then you will create a new data frame df, and then here you will say this column name, which is country/territory dot is in select country. That is, if you are selecting any particular country from the drop down box, then you will visualize data only for that particular country, and if you are not selecting any particular country filter, then you will copy the existing data frame as it is, that is df is equal to df.copy. Fine. So this was the second filter for country. So let's rerun it from starting, and let's refresh this particular page of dashboard. So as you can see on your left hand side, now we are getting two filters, first for continent and the second for country. Let me just show you. Right now you haven't selected any particular continent, and hence this country filter will consist of all the countries from all the continents. Fine. So this is consisting of the names of countries from all the continents. But what if you select a particular continent here in the filter? Let's say I am selecting the continent as Asia. Now this country filter will show all the country names only for that particular continent of Asia. As you can see, now it's just showing the names of Asia countries. Fine. Secondly, if I remove this filter and if I select the continent as North America, now it will show the country names only that belongs to North America continent. Fine. So whatever first filter you're applying, the second filter gets changed accordingly. And if you remove this, then you get the names of all the countries available in all the continents. Fine. You can, if you select more than one continent here, let's say Asia and then South America, now you will get the names of countries that are present in both these continents, Asia and South America. Fine. So this is how it works. Let me remove this filter. Now we are done with the sidebar. We have created our filters. The next thing that we want to do is now start building the plots. So as you know, first we have to build this Choropleth map, which will show us the world population percentage through different shades of colors. So going back to this Google Colab, here we will start writing the code for same. So let me give the title here as third, and that is Choropleth map for population. Now to build this Choropleth map, we are going to make use of Plotly library. Again, we will just say here, write file, append to app.py. Every time you have to keep on appending the data to that app.py file. Now let us put a subheader here. So st.subheader, and let's say the title as Choropleth map. So Choropleth map, which will demonstrate as the population. So population. Now after writing this subheader, let's start building the Choropleth map in actual. So here I will say figure 1 is equal to px, which is an alias for Plotly, and here I will just make use of Choropleth. Now in this, first we have to pass our data frame as it is, df. And here we also have to make use of drop-NA method in case if our dataset consists of any null values. So we just have to ignore them or basically drop them. Now, on what basis our Choropleth map will be divided? So it will be basically divided on various locations and they will be the countries. So the column name for country from this data frame df is country or territory. And let me just copy that column name and paste it here. So our Choropleth map will be divided into various countries and territories. And after that, we have to say here location mode. So as we have selected our location as it's actually locations. So as we have selected our locations as country, so our location mode will also be country names. So let me just say here country names. Now after selecting this location mode, secondly, we have to put a color here, and color basically means that we want to give different colors for different regions based upon some parameter. As you can see in this dashboard, every country is divided into different colors depending upon their world population percentage. So this is what we want to give it there. So we basically want that depending upon the population of a country should be colored accordingly. So to do so, let me go to this data set here and let me just display all the columns here. And from this, I will just copy this particular column, which is the last, and that is world population percentage, as I want that all the countries on the Choropleth map should be colored according to this world population percentage. So let me just copy that column name and here I will paste it. So now depending upon the world population percentage, the color of the countries will change. Now after doing this, the next thing that I want to do here is hover name. That is, whenever we will hover upon a country, what data should get displayed. So firstly, on hover, we should get displayed with the country name, and that is country / territory. Let me just put it here. And secondly, hover data. That is, along with the country name, what all data you want to display when you hover upon a country. So I want to display the world population percentage, depending upon which we are coloring the Choropleth map. And secondly, I want to also display the area of land of that particular country. So I will again go back to this data set, and from this I will copy the name of this column, which is area in kilometer square, and I will just paste it here. That is, whenever I will hover upon a country, I will get displayed with the name of country, then the world population percentage for that particular country, and the area in kilometer square of that particular country. The last thing that you have to do here is color continuous scale. Here you have to give the theme depending upon which you will color your Choropleth map. So you have various themes available in your PX Choropleth module. I will specifically go for Inferno. So Inferno. After that, you have to come out of this Choropleth, and here you have to say st.plotly charts. So plotly charts. Actually, it's just chart and not charts. So here you have to say plotly chart, and in that you have to pass this figure 1. So figure 1, and then you have to say use container width is equal to true. So this is how you will plot your first Choropleth map onto the dashboard. Let's run that for now. And let's go to the dashboard and refresh the page. And the error is that plotly has no attribute Choropleth. It's actually because the C is not capital here, it's small. So I think now it will be fine. Now we have to run again from starting. And let's look like how this dashboard looks now. So as you can see, you are getting this Choropleth map here, but you might find one difference, and that is the background of this map is light. That is, it consists of white color, but you don't want it in white, you want it in black color. And also you want some color to this Antarctica region, because the background of this map and the Antarctica region both are in white color. So you want to basically distinguish between them, and secondly you want the background to be in the black color. So for that, you again have to go to the coding part and you have to write some code here. And that is, after this figure 1 and before building the plotly chart from Streamlit, here you have to just say figure 1 dot update geos. Now in that update geos, first you have to say here show coastlines is equal to true. That is, you should get displayed with coastlines. Secondly, you will say coastline color and let's say the coastline color should be white. After that, you will say show land, that is the land should also be shown, and here you will say true. Now you will say land color, so land color is equal to gray. Then you will say show ocean, that is ocean should also be shown separately, is equal to true. And then you will say ocean color is equal to black. It is all the ocean that you have right now in white color will get displayed in the black color furthermore. After that, next you have to say here show lakes, so show lakes is equal to true. And then you have to say here lake color is equal to, so let the lake color be also black, and in the final you will just say here background color, that is BG color is equal to black. Fine. So now you are updating your final figure 1, and that is you are adding the coastlines and you are making that coastlines as white. Then you are adding the land and you are making that land color as gray, that is Antarctica is a land, and now it will get displayed in gray color. So basically it will be distinguished from the ocean part, which will be in the black color. And if you want, you can change the color of this Antarctica land as well, but I will keep it to gray. Then you are also showing the lakes and the lake color. Fine. Now we have to rerun it from beginning. So let me just do that. And I will refresh this dashboard page here. So as you can see, now we are getting the black as our background color, and now the Antarctica region is shown in this gray portion. Let me also zoom it for you. To zoom, you just have to scroll up or scroll down. So this will just zoom in, and if you scroll up, it will zoom out. Fine. So let me just zoom in. And as you can see, the yellow part is where you are having the higher world population percentage, and the red part is where you are having the lowest world population percentage. Purple, pink and orange are somewhere in between. Fine. If you hover upon a country, you can see it's displaying you the country name. Then it's also displaying you the world population percentage, which is 17% for China, and the land area for that particular country in kilometers square. Fine. Now this was for entire world, as I already said, because we haven't applied any filters here. Let us try to apply some filters. Let me just select for a particular continent here, which is Asia. Now once you select the continent Asia there, you can see all other continents are now present in gray color, and only we are finding the colors according to world population percentage for this Asia continent. As you can see, now only this particular Asia continent is shown in colors because we have selected the filter from sidebar. Let's select one more filter, and that is the country name. Now after selecting a continent, let's say we have to visualize this for a particular country from Asia, and let's say China. Now once you do that, as you can see, now it's purely displaying the data for China here, because we have selected the filter for continent and we have also selected the filter for country, which is China. And you can select more than one countries here. So let me add few more countries here in the filter. After China, I will add Hong Kong, then I will also add India here, then I will add Jordan, and let me add few more countries like Myanmar, Maldives. Fine. So now it will display the data only for the selected countries here. As you can see, here we have India, China, then we have Myanmar here, then here we have Jordan in red color, and probably few more around. Now this was for a particular continent. You might play with different continents. You can add few more continents here. Let's say I also want to add Africa here. As you can see, it's showing for all countries from Africa, and here I will again put some filters, that is some countries from Asia and some countries from Africa. Let me just do that here randomly. So as you can see, after selecting these few countries from the filter, these countries are now getting displayed on our Choropleth map. Fine. These are getting displayed. Few are in purple color, so it will be hard for you to differentiate, and the remaining are in red, yellow. So this is how you can add filters, as many as you want. So let me just remove these filters here, which means the Choropleth map will now get displayed for the entire world. Now the second thing that we are going to do here is we are going to add a metrics card. So going back to this dashboard, here you can see the growth rate, which is just for the Afghanistan by default because that's the first country alphabetically, and then whatever country you will choose for filter, for that particular country you will get displayed with a growth rate. So as you can see, the growth rate of population for Afghanistan is around 110%, which is very higher. Fine. So to do that, we will go back to this collab file, and here we will put some metrics card. So here I will just say, I think this is third part, it's actually fourth, and that is metrics card. Now we have to write some logic for that, and if you just see that in this original dashboard, we are displaying two different charts in a single portion of this rectangle. Initially for this Choropleth map, the entire horizontal portion basically was dedicated to that particular Choropleth map. But now the next horizontal portion here is dedicated for two individual charts. The first one is for metrics card of growth rate, and the second one is for donut chart. So here we have to create two blocks first. So here I will just say write file, append app.py, and here I will create two blocks, that is block 1 and block 2. Then I will say st.columns, and I want to add two columns. Here I will say 2. So after creating that block, let's run that for now. And this particular block 1 will be dedicated to the metrics card, and the block 2 will be dedicated for the donut chart. Right now we are building the metrics card, and hence we will start with block 1. I will again copy this particular line of appending the data, we'll paste it here, and let's start writing the code for metrics card here. So first I will say with block 1. Here we just have to add data in that particular block 1. In this I will give the subheader, so st.subheader, and let the subheader be growth rate. So growth rate, and along with this subheader we also want to add some emoji here. So let's go back to this emoji part, and we now want to add a chart with upward trend because we are showing the growth rate here. So let me just say here chart in the search box, and here we are getting different charts, but I want the one with upward trend here. So this is the one I want, that is chart with upward trend. So let me copy this emoji name from here and let me paste it here after growth rate. Now after doing that, after giving the subheader, now you have to write the logic for that metrics card. So here first we have to write the filtering logic, that if we are selecting any filter, then the metric card should just get displayed for that particular country, and if you are not selecting any filter, then it should get displayed for the random country that is by default at the first position, which is Afghanistan, because it comes first in the alphabetical order of all the countries. So here I will say if not select country, that is if we are not selecting any country filter here, then country data is equal to df.ilog 0. This basically means the same thing that I said right now, and that was if we are not selecting any country from the filter, then by default it will get displayed for the first available country name, which is present at the index location 0. And then we will say else, that is if we are selecting any country from the filter, then we will say here country data is equal to df, and the column name of country in our data frame is country/territory. Let me just copy it from here and paste it here, is equal to the select country at location 0 dot ilog 0. This basically means that if we are selecting any country from the filter, then the selected country should match with the country name in the available data frame, and only for that particular country the data should get displayed. Now further, to calculate the growth percentage here, you have to write some logic. So let me just say here function to compute growth percentage, because as it is we don't have any available column for growth percentage in our data frame. If you just see here, we just have the growth rate here but not the growth percentage. So what we have to do is we have to make use of few columns there, and we have to manually compute the growth percentage. So going back to this code part here, we will write the function. So let the function be def calculate growth, and in this function we will pass the previous population and the current population. So we are passing two parameters here, the previous population and the current population, and then we will return current minus previous divided by previous into 100. Fine. So this is the function that we are going to write for calculate growth, where we are taking the previous population and the current population and we are trying to compute the growth percentage. Now after you do that, you have to calculate the growth now. So let me just say here, calculate growth, and here I will say country growth is equal to, we will call this function of calculate growth here. And after calling this function, now we have to give two arguments here. First one is the previous population and the second one is the current population. So we will say here country data, because country data is the new data frame in which we are storing the information of our filters. Now here we are going to call the column name. So let me just take you to this Kaggle, and here we have the populations for different years, but we are going to prominently consider the 2000 population, and for current population we are going to pass the 2022 column because that's the latest available population column here in this particular data set. And for the previous population we are going to pass this 2000 population column. So let me just copy that column name from here, and here I will paste it. So this was for previous. Let's do it for current, and we will again say country data, and as I said previously, we are passing the 2022 population column here. So 2022. Now after calculating this country growth, the next thing that we want to do here is we want to define the card creation function now. That is, we want to compare it with the 0. That is, if the growth is greater than 0, an upward arrow will be shown, and if the growth is lower than 0, then a downward arrow will be shown. So let me just say here, define card creation function, and here I will just write the function, that is def, so create metric card, and in this function I will pass the country name, so country name. Secondly, I will pass the current population, and lastly I will pass the growth rate basically. So here I will say if growth is greater than 0, then growth class is equal to change positive. Fine. And then we also have to say here growth symbol, so growth symbol, and here we have to put the, just a minute, and here we have to put the upward arrow. So let's just search for that upward arrow on the Google here. So upward arrow, and as you can see, you are getting the symbol here. Just copy that symbol from here, and once you copy that symbol, just paste it here in a single quotes. Fine. So this upward arrow will get displayed if the change is positive. Else, we also have to write the else block here. Else, that is, if the growth is lower than 0, that is, growth class is equal to change negative. Fine. And we also have to give the growth symbol here. So growth symbol is equal to, now we have to give a downward arrow here. So let me just again search for downward arrow here. And this is the symbol that I am getting. Let me just copy this symbol from here, and once I copy this symbol, here I will paste it. Fine. So if the growth is greater than 0, the upward arrow will be shown, and if the growth is lower than 0, then a downward arrow will be shown. Fine. And what are we returning here? So let me just say here return in this particular function itself, and this return should actually be inside the function in the indentation of else, and we are returning here. Let me just put f string here. So in this return, we will say country name. We are returning the country name. Secondly, we are returning the current populations. So let me just say here current population, and for that we will say 1f for the decimal point, and in front of that we will put an m, which stands for million. And after that we are returning the growth symbol. So growth symbol, and here we will say absolute value for the growth rate. So absolute value of growth, and we will take it for 2 decimal points, so 2f, and then we will put the percentage sign here. Fine. So this is the metric card function that we have written, and then we have to call this function as well. So going back, here I will say st.markdown, and in this markdown I am going to call this function of create metric card. So let me just copy it from here and paste it here, and inside this function first we have to pass the country name. So we will call this country data frame here, which is this particular data frame that consists of the filtered information, and from this data frame I just want to display the country name, that is I want to pass the country / territory column here. So I will just pass this column, just a minute. Secondly, I have to pass the current population in this function. So coming out of this, here I will again say here country data, and for current population I am passing the 2022 population column. So let me just copy the column name and paste it here, and at the last I am going to pass the growth rate. So let me just copy this value and let me pass it here. Fine. And after doing that, here I have to say unsafe allow HTML is equal to true. So this was the entire code for the metric card, and let's see if this works. Let me just run this, and I will just refresh this dashboard page. So as you can see, right now we are getting this particular growth rate here. So though it is getting displayed, as you can see, it's not up to the mark. That is, the desired output for the growth rate we expected was something like this, as you can see here in this final output page, but we got something different, and that is because we have just plainly added the HTML part, but we haven't put any CSS part there. So further we also have to add the CSS styling part there. So going back to the code file, here before writing this block 1, we have to add a code block, and here we have to write the code for CSS. So I'll again just copy this appending part, and here let me give the comment as CSS for card metric, or we can say CSS for metric card. So starting with writing the CSS part, we have to say st.markdown, and in this markdown we have to just give 3 quotes, and inside that we have to start writing the CSS part here. So first is the style tag. Now inside this style tag we will first have an object here, and that is card, and in that object we will say border radius. So we'll put some border radius here. So let the border radius be 5 pixels, so 5 px. Secondly, we will say here padding from all sides, and let the padding also be 5 px. After that we will give the margin here. Now for the margin, from top I want 100 pixel down, and on down I don't want anything. Also on right I don't want anything, and I want it shifted towards the left part, and hence I will just say here minus 50 pixel. Fine. After this margin, secondly we have to say the color, that is the color of text here, and that should be white as it is currently. After that we will say the font size, so font size, and let the font size be 30 pixel. Just a minute, it's actually 30. And then we will say text align center, that is we want to align this text towards the center of that particular block 1. So here I will say text align center. Fine. Now we have to come out of this particular object of card. Secondly, we have to write one more object here, that is value. Now inside this value I will again say font size, which is 48 pixel. Secondly, the font weight, which is bold. Again we will come out of this object, and then we have to write the CSS for change positive and change negative. As you can see in this particular code, here we had the change positive and change negative, but we haven't written any particular CSS for them particularly. So we will write the CSS for them, and here I will say first is for change positive. In this change positive I will say color yellow, that is whenever it's the positive change, the color of the upward arrow should be yellow. Secondly, the font size, so font size, and let the font size for this be 24 pixel. And lastly, font weight, so let the font weight again be bold. Fine. This was for change positive. Let me just copy this block, and I will repeat the same thing for change negative. So change negative, and the only difference is if the change is negative, that is if the growth is negative, I will demonstrate the downward arrow using the red color and not yellow. Everything else will remain same. And then here we will close the style block. So closing the style tag, and after that coming down here we have to say unsafe allow HTML is equal to true. Fine. So this was the CSS part, and now coming back to this existing code, here we have to make some changes, and those changes are we have to add the appropriate classes here. So firstly we are going to add one div block here. So div class, and let the class be card, that is we are calling this particular card class that we have written here. After calling that class, before this country name we will again add the div block, then the country name, and then I will close this div block here. Fine. For the current population, here I will again call the div block. So div, then the class, here I will call the value class, that is this particular value class that we have written here, that I am calling here for the current population. And once I call this, I will close this div tag here after that. Fine. And for the last, that is the growth symbol, here I will just again call the class. So div class is equal to, and the class is actually growth rate here. So let me just put double quotes here, and then I will close this div tag after that. Fine. So these were the changes that we were supposed to make in the existing code of the metric card. And after making these changes, now we will be able to visualize our metric card in the desired format. So let me just run everything from beginning. I think from this particular cell. And now let's try to visualize our dashboard. So I will just refresh it. So as you can see, now we are getting this metric card here, but I think there's some error. Let me just check it. Somewhere I have added one dot after the division block, and let me just check where it is. Actually here. Let me just remove this, and it's actually backslash. Fine. Now it should work correctly. Also, one more change that we have to make here is, this is not growth symbol actually. This is growth class here. So here I have to just say growth class. And inside this division tag, actually here we have the growth symbol. So growth symbol. Right? So these were the only changes that we were supposed to make, and I think now it should work fine. So rerunning everything from beginning. The only disadvantage of writing the Streamlit code here in the Google Colab is we have to every time run everything from the beginning. Let's try to see our dashboard now. I will refresh this page. So this is now how it looks, and also it's currently, I don't think it's in block 1, and that is because this st.markdown should be inside the with block. It's actually outside the with block. Let me just put a tab here, and now it should work fine. So again rerunning everything from beginning. Let's see now. It should work fine for now. So finally, we have displayed the metric card as we wanted it to be. And after doing that, this will show the growth rate for a particular country. Right now, we haven't selected any filter for the country, and hence the first available country in the order is Afghanistan. And that is why this particular metric card is showing the growth rate for Afghanistan. Let me select a different country here. Let's say I'm selecting Australia here. So now it's showing the growth rate for Australia, which is around 37%, and that's still higher. Let me add few more countries. Now even after adding the few more countries here, it will keep continuing showing the growth rate for the first available country in the filter, and that's Australia. So let me just remove these filters, and let me select a continent here. So let's say I'm selecting the continent as Europe, and now the first available country from the Europe continent here is Albania, and hence it's showing the growth rate for Albania. And as you can see, for Albania the growth rate is in negative. That is, it's showing the downward arrow, and it's in red color. That is, the growth rate is lower there. So this is how this metric card should work. Let me remove this filter for now. Now the next thing that we want to do after this metric card and the Choropleth map is, now we want this donut chart to display the population by continent. Fine. So let's go back to the Google Colab here and let's start writing the code for donut chart. So this is the fifth part, and that is donut chart. Now here again I have to write the code for appending. So here I will say write file, append app.py. Now this donut chart will be present in the block 2 of the horizontal portion. That is, block 1 was entirely dedicated to this metric card, and the block 2 that we created here, the second block, will be dedicated for the donut chart. So here I will say with block 2. Here I will again put the subheader. So subheader, and let the subheader be donut chart, that is population by continent. Fine. Now after giving this subheader, let's write the group by function first. That is, we want to group by the population of a continent. So let me just say here df continent population is equal to df dot group by. After calling this group by method, here I will pass the column name for which I want to group by, and that is continent. So continent, and then I want to group by based upon its 2022 population. So 2022 population. Then I'm going to submit, and here I will say reset index. Fine. Now after performing this group by, next we have to plot this donut chart. So let me just say here figure 2 is equal to, so here I will say px.py, and here I will pass this df continent population data frame. After that I will give the names here. So the names should be based upon the continent. This continent is the column from our data frame. After giving the names, secondly we have to give the values, and values will be depending upon the 2022 population. So let me just copy this column name and I will give it here in the values argument. After that we have to give the whole size, that is, let's say 0.4, and this is how the donut will be created. So after creating this donut with the size of 0.4, secondly we have to give the title to this donut chart. So let the title be population distribution by continent, and the latest available data here is for 2022. Fine. So after creating this donut chart, then we have to say here st.plotly charts, actually chart, and then we have to pass this figure 2 there, and then we have to say use container width is equal to true. Fine. So this is how we create the donut chart. If we don't give this whole size here, then it will basically be a pie chart, and if we are giving a whole size here, then it will be a donut chart. So let's run that for now, and let's see how the dashboard looks like. Let me refresh this. So as you can see, here we are getting our donut chart. The highest population is for the Asia, followed by Africa, and then followed by Europe. Fine. If you are selecting some continents here in the filter, let's say Asia, so it will just show entire portion dedicated to Asia. Then I'm adding one more continent here, let's say North America. Then it will also show some portion for North America. So depending upon the filter, the charts will change accordingly, as this is an interactive dashboard. Now after creating this donut chart, we are left with one last visualization in our dashboard, and that is the heat map. So here, as you can see, this is the heat map of the population growth over years for different countries, and this is now what we want to build. So going back to this coding part, here let me just say sixth part, and that is heat map. Now I will again copy this appending part here. So let's start writing the heat map code now, and as now the entire horizontal portion will be completely dedicated to our heat map, we won't be writing any blocks here. Fine. So let me just say here subheader, and let's give the subheader as heat map. and population growth over years. After giving this subheader, let me just extract the population columns as we want to visualize them over time. So let me just say here population columns is equal to, and in this we have to pass all the columns starting from beginning up till the current one. So let me take you back to the Kaggle dataset here, and as you can see, the available columns here for population is the one beginning from 1970 up till 2022. So we are going to extract all these columns here, or we can say I want the columns after a time span of 10 years, that is 1970, 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010 and 2020. I am not going to include the 2022 column here because I am taking an interval of 10 years. Fine. So going back to this coding part, let me include all of them. So first one is 1970 population. The next one here is 1980 population. So let me just make the changes in that. After that, the next one that we have is 1990 population. After that, the next one that we have is 2000 population. So 2000. And the last one that we have here is 2010 population. So 2010. Fine. So these are the population columns for which we are going to plot the heat map. Now here I will say, coming down, df just for heat map is equal to df, and now we are just going to include this particular population columns in our new data frame df heat map. Fine. We will start plotting the heat map now. So here I will say figure 3 is equal to go. This is the module geo from the plotly graph objects, and here I will say figure. In this I will say data is equal to go dot heat map, and in this first we are passing the z argument. So let me just put some indentation here and let me just take this forward, and here I will pass the z. Z is nothing but our data frame, which is df heat map. After that, the next argument will be x, and that will be the data that should get displayed on the x-axis. So that is nothing but our country names. So let me just pass this country oblique territory column here. It should be somewhere here. I will copy it and paste it here. So on x-axis we will have our country names. Next we have y. That is on y-axis what should get displayed. So on y-axis we should have the population column names. And then we will give the color scale here. So color scale is equal to plasma. So this is the color scale. After doing that, we have to come down and we have to again say streamlit.plotly charts. So st.plotly charts. Just a minute. And in this we have to pass the figure 3 and then use container width is equal to true. Fine. So this is the code for plotting the heat map. Let's run that for now. And let's try to see how our dashboard looks now. I will refresh this page. And going down, it's saying FO is not defined. Let me see, somewhere I have misspelled the geo. It's actually geo, not FO. And now we have to rerun everything from beginning. So just a minute. Fine. Now coming back to this dashboard, let's see how it looks like. Also, it's not plotly charts, it's plotly chart. So let me just remove this S and let me run everything from beginning here. So just a minute. Now as you can see, though we are getting this heat map here, but it's not getting displayed in the proper order. And let us see what's going wrong. So it must be somewhere here. Let me check. Fine, it's actually we have to transpose this data frame here. So we are basically transposing the heat map data frame. Now it should work fine. So let me run everything from beginning again. And let's now see our dashboard here. So now it's working fine. So this is our heat map. Now it will get displayed depending upon what filters we are putting here. Let me say I want to select few countries here, and starting with let's say here China. Now when you select the country as China in filter, this is how the heat map looks like, because initially in 1970 the population is represented using blue color, which was lower, and now in 2010 the population is represented using yellow color, which is high. That is, there is higher population growth in China. Let's select some other country here, let's say Comoros. And for the entire Comoros country, the heat map just shows the blue color, which means there is very slightly or no population growth in this particular country. Let's now select Cuba. Even for Cuba, there is no population growth. So let me just remove this. And now let's see for India. So for India, as you can see, there is again similar higher population growth as of China. So these are the two countries, China and India, which are having higher population growth. Now let's select here Kenya. Even for Kenya, it's the same. Then let's select Maldives. Even for Maldives, it's not changing. Let's select Monaco here. Then Netherlands, New Zealand. You can see the color of Kenya is slightly different from that of Maldives and Monaco, and that is because Kenya is showing slightly higher growth rate as compared to Maldives, Monaco and Netherlands. Then let's select Nigeria here. Now as you can see, for Nigeria the color scale is slightly different as compared to New Zealand, Netherlands, Monaco and Maldives. So whatever filter that we are putting in this particular country part, according to that the charts will change, and even the about charts will get changed depending upon the filters that we are inserting here. So let me just remove these filters for now, and let me zoom in. So this is the final output of our dashboard. So this is how our dashboard is looking. Fine. I will also provide this GitHub repository in my description box. Do check that. So here I have the Python file. I have also uploaded the dataset here, and I have also uploaded the snapshots of the final dashboard. So I will provide this in the description box. Do check that. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching.